So we all good with saying that Nick Saban was right because Nick Saban was right. He was 100% correct to leave the game of college football when he did, because if he knew that the shit that has currently hit the fan was only getting started back in 2024. Welcome on into the Overtime Drive. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson on a Monday, April 14th. Yeah, it is April. I don't know. Every day like at this point has just come together to where I've forgotten about what is going on, who am I speaking to, or what we're even talking about half the time. But welcome on into the show. We have a jam-packed show, so much that I have forgotten half of the content that we're going to talk about. But we got to talk about Nico Iamaleava because that has been the story of college football for the last 48-plus hours. Spring games have come and gone. What are some of the big takeaways? Texas lands itself a wide receiver number 2 and a guy that might end up being a big reason why Arch Manning takes another step forward. And who do we like potentially heading to Knoxville as a replacement for Mr. Iamaleava? But real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, link in the description. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson, Dave at Dave Shumate SEC, us at SEC Unfiltered, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, this show is proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go to fanduel.com/SECU and join today with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So lay down $5, win that bet. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets, whether it's on MLB, NBA playoff, NHL playoffs, whatever you see fit. Make sure you go lay down some money, win yourself $200 at fanduel.com/SECU. Shoesters, how the hell are you?
Bear, nice to see you as always on Monday and Thursdays, baby. Not much, by the way. Everybody was watching the Masters on Saturday. Your boy was dressed up for the second time as the Easter Bunny.
How'd that go?
It was better. Last year, a kid almost jumped off a cliff. He was so scared I came out.
Hold
on, Bear. Hold on. Before we get real started, hold on. We got never mind. It's not on this, so I can't show you. I was about to say we had video evidence, but it's on another computer. But no, my wife's always second annual one, so we did that. I always dress up as the Easter Bunny. So if anybody needs one within the next week, I'm charging $50 an hour. So it'll be $100 if your party's longer than 2 hours. I don't know why your Easter party would be longer than 2 hours. An Easter egg hunt should not take that long. Bear, fired up, dude. We got a lot to cover today.
We have a lot to cover today. In fact, we have way more than I actually plan on covering. I thought we were just going to do spring games. I thought we were going to get some intel from A-Day, what we saw out at Florida, what we saw out at Tennessee, what we saw out in Oklahoma, what we saw out at all these places. And naturally, we're going to talk about those things after we talk about the news that has currently been taking over college football and really is going to be the storyline moving forward in the world of college football, because Nico Iamaleava is in the transfer portal. He said that he was going to work out a brand new deal. Then he decides to leave the program on a Friday, not show up to practice. Josh Heupel puts his foot down and says, we are not dealing with this. We are not going to be a part of this malarkey. We're not going to allow you to kind of have the final say on everything. And now he is looking for a new home, and Tennessee is starting fresh. Let me just start here. In my opinion, nobody walks away a winner in this deal for the short term. Now, that does not mean for the long term that this is not a good move by Tennessee, and I want to preface this before I go any further. Tennessee made the right decision to move off of Nico Iamaleava the second that he bailed on practice, the second that he said, I am more important than the team. I am more important than my offensive line, than my wide receivers. We all need to get work in this offseason, but I can tell you right now, I am better than everyone else here. The second you did that, you were done. You waved the white flag and you told everybody, I'm not going to be playing for this organization. And I credit Josh Heupel and I credit the organization for not wanting to deal and negotiate this way. But they had built an offense around Nico to take that next step forward. They had high hopes that this quarterback room was going to have a year, whether it be Jake Merklinger, whether it be George McIntyre. They were going to take that next step forward. They don't win unless they land the right quarterback in the transfer portal that is going to keep them in that same trajectory for 2025 with a very relaxed schedule and an opportunity to go back to the college football playoff. Nico doesn't win because, number one, Nico's not getting $4.5 million out on the terms. He's not going to get that type of money, nor should he get that type of money. He also got to realize he got very much told by the wrong people in his camp. Wrong information. He was guided by the wrong sources. And that in itself is a negative because of now this is a glaring weakness. And more importantly, this is going to be a black spot on his resume for the remainder of his college career and more importantly, for his NFL career. that money is a talking point, whether it's on him, whether it's on his family. Now that this is out in the open, that is something that you have to understand is going to follow him. So it's a loss for Nico. And it's a loss for college football in general because of, once again, we constantly see as money is going to be the selling point. And I understand this has happened before. This is going to continue to happen. Yes, we hear all the time about renegotiating NIL deals, but it's just the fact that this is now such a prominent thing and that we're going into the final days of spring practice where we don't know who's going to be on the roster, where coaches are going into their actual recruiting classes and saying, I don't know who's going to be here next year. I can't promise if you're going to have a chance to start because today I may tell you you're a third stringer. Tomorrow I may need you because of my starter left for a bigger NIL contract. It's a loss for college football, and it's very infuriating because if there are no regulations, there are no stipulations, and because if it's all legal, and whether or not we agree that it's legal, but it is, everyone walks away a loser right now. It's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been in the works for a bit. I mean, you think Tennessee would maybe have their ducks in a row a little bit in order. Maybe they do from behind the scenes.
Sure.
Have some guys working around here. But, yeah, I mean, some people want to blame Nico. And I think the only thing you can really blame Nico on, because this is a Samoan type of family and that dynamic, if you ever dealt with any of them in the recruiting process, it's very family-oriented to listen to what the parents have to say. So from the negotiation standpoint, yeah, he has the right to negotiate. He can do whatever he wants. I don't blame him just listening to his father and his agent Landers, who's, again, chalk him up to the category of guys who are complete clowns in the agent world as well. But I get him listening to his father and stuff in that regards, because that's just kind of how that society, that culture is. And again, if you're 20 years old, you're probably going to listen to your parents as well. Most people are. Where he went wrong is, hey, dude, you're a 20-year-old man. You missing practice, like you mentioned, Bear. That's when you have to cut the cord, and that's when it's over at that point. Because, again, it's just an awkward thing to bring back on. It's just an awkward thing to bring back on. You're asking for 4 when you're making 2. It's like, dude, you should still go to practice. And, again, I know people too many times people want to compare the NFL opt-outs with this stuff now. It's not the same. That's actually a real job, professional level. You're holding out. It's different. I mean, Barry, you've been around the NFL. The payment system's different. Those guys get paid different. They get paid to play. This is a totally different situation to me. You're right. It's unfortunate. This is what happens when you listen to the wrong people, and unfortunately, one of them is someone who's very close to him, a father of his. Just one of it. It's a father, and the other guy's just a West Coast recruiting guy. Got out. That's trying to make a name for himself. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, like you mentioned. I think it'll happen again. Maybe this is what we needed. Maybe we needed to go through a little pain, some growing pains before we got through it at some point. But I mean, not much more to add unless I'm being long-winded after what you said. I mean, it is what it is. We've discussed this. Anybody wants to see how I really feel? I mean, I went over it on Friday. Essentially called it. We called it on the show on Thursday that he was potentially leaving.
No, I mean, like, I haven't been on since he's entered the transfer portal, so I have my own thoughts, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, so I apologize that you've already listened to Dave, but if you want to listen to me, again, this is going to be up on the show. This is going to be up on the channel. By the way, if you haven't already, like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel. That way we know what type of content you want going into the off-season workouts, going into the summer months. We still are giving you every bit of information we can going into what will be SEC Media Days, and then later on, actual fall practice before we get kickoff in week 1 in Neyland when Syracuse goes and plays against this Volunteer team without its starting quarterback. There's a couple of things I want to say. Number one, the biggest problem that I have with everything that goes on is that there is no real agency. Nothing at all whatsoever. Anybody can go ahead and claim themselves as an agent working in NIL by slapping on a logo, saying that they work for a certain brand or company and have relationships and ties with players that they can get them contracts with businesses and organizations that will allow them to sign on. That's not what you see in the NFL. The reason why you can't burn these bridges in the NFL and the reason why most of the times you talk about insiders not being able to keep, quote unquote, called out later on is because that they build those resources, they build those reports, and the last thing you want to do is burn a bridge with somebody who has a high profile free agent. So many of these players are dropped by agencies the second that the agency doesn't get that right deal. So the second that they end up losing money, you're just another name to them when honestly, you're more than that to the organization. And a lot of these schools aren't lying to you. What they're doing is they're being told by other people who don't have your best interest in mind, hey, This is how much I think you're worth. Well, I think Shumate and I are both worth $150 million. I think both of us are freaking awesome people. Guess what? If Chris Phillips doesn't want to pay us $150 million and somebody else does, we better get it in damn writing and on a legal contracting binding agreement that we will get paid that money, or we're just believing the words out there. And that's the same thing with Nico. Somebody can promise you $4 million. Somebody can promise you you're going to get paid X amount to leave your school, but you're betting on that they're going to hold up their end of the bargain. And that's the problem with this NIL factor right now, is that everything is being told, oh yeah, we'll gladly go ahead and meet you with this deal. And now you're betting on yourself that the other person is going to be loyal and true to their word, and you're going to see every single penny. That's what's happening with Nico right now. You hear the rumors, you hear the speculation. Oh, yeah, there's multiple people out there that have said, we're going to offer him $4 million. We have multiple teams that are calling us for $4 million. Okay, well, let me see the contract that guarantees and says on the dotted line that he is going to get that type of money. Because until I see it, yeah, you can say whatever you want to go ahead and jack up the price or have other people get in a bidding war with you. But until I actually see it with my own two eyes, it's not happening. And the worst part is the people who are benefiting off this could care less about Nico Iamaleava outside of probably his father, but there are more people involved in my opinion. And more importantly, these people don't care about college football. They care about putting money in their pockets. They care about making sure that they are properly compensated and that they're the ones that are going to reap the benefits of a player, because if they don't know how to run their damn things, it's a shame on the NCAA and it's a shame on what's currently status of college football.
I mean, but the NCAA really, in this perspective, bears the conference commissioners and university presidents. You know what I mean? And so that's who you're blaming. You're blaming your own. Like, I feel like sometimes, and we'll talk about the spring games a little bit, these commissioners, these TV execs, and again, I used to be like this. I think Saturday with the spring games and this whole stuff, this whole weekend, it's kind of hit me where I was like, yeah, I do know people will always watch college football because in the season it's a good product. It's like you keep banking on that and you're arrogant enough to keep that going down the line and you just keep thinking people are going to just keep showing up. I mean, dude, it's going to be like Walmart a little bit. I mean, Walmart monopolized so much stuff, but at some point people stopped shopping there. And I'm not saying, again, me and you will never stop. The people listening in here will never stop, or you wouldn't be – you seem like a smart person. So you're probably going to keep watching if you're watching us. So, but I think like your casual fan will just check out. I mean, there's so many people you talk to, your casual buddies I went to college with. They're just like, dude, I can't even keep up with my roster. I couldn't tell you 5 guys out of high school that are committed to my team right now. It's just so hard to keep up with. But I was talking to an SEC GM on Friday, Barry, your point with the agents. He says he has dealt with Kirk Cousins, who represents Cam Coleman right now, and he does it for free. So he knows he has a leg up for when he does get drafted. Cam Coleman will go with him if he likes him. So he's like very easy to deal with. He's like, I was actually on the phone with him when Michael Penix got drafted by the Falcons and Kirk Cousins started calling him. So he's like, he had to let me go. I deal with that. And he's like, and I deal with freaking Uncle Marcus, who is just an uncle of a kid and has no idea.
And they're both equal in the eyes of NIL deals.
Contractual deals. Yeah. It's like, dude, he's like, that's the gap. He's like, I'm dealing with the top guys. And then I'm dealing with the dude down the street who just think, hey, my nephew's pretty good at football. I should be able to negotiate some contracts as well. Yeah, I mean, that is the key. I see everybody. Josh Pate was on Pat McAfee. I saw he's on some other shows. I think everybody 100% unanimously agrees. Yes, we need regulations. I agree. But, yeah, I mean, you see people with different thoughts too. Like, oh, don't blame Nico. It's like, dude, I'm not blaming him for negotiating. He has the right to do that. I blame him for bailing on practice and bailing on his team. That's what I blame him for. And then CAA, I mean, dude, you can point at them in Indianapolis too, but those presidents and conference commissioners, I think, are taking the college football fan for granted and just banking you're going to continue to show up. And at some point, I used to not think this. This weekend changed me. I think that's wrong now.
It's not. I don't think it's entirely right. I don't think it's entirely wrong. And that's kind of the sad thing, is that there is that middle ground of either thing is plausible, and it won't shock me. Let's focus in. We've already talked a lot about Nico. I want to say one more thing. Nico is an adult. Nico, at the end of the day, can make adult decisions if he wants to. He doesn't have to listen to his family. He doesn't have to listen to what people are telling him. He could make the choice himself. What I will say is that he got bad advice from people that he trusted, and now he has got to make sure that the next place he lands, he lives up to the expectations that other people set for him. Because when you're going to get paid $4.5 million, or you think you're worth $4.5 million, you best show, regardless of what you're making, however much you're going to get paid, whatever the final NIL contract is, whether it be with UCLA, Texas Tech, BYU, North Carolina, whoever is the one that lands him, you better show why you were worth every single penny. But I want to bring this into Tennessee's perspective. Number one, I think Tennessee is going to be fine. Now, I don't know if they'll be fine in terms of national championship expectations now without the right quarterback.
Yeah, buddies at FanDuel dropped them from 9.5 to 7,
8.5 wins. 8.5 wins.
Yeah,
and again, that feels like a very good bet right now to take if they can find themselves. They feel really good about the quarterback room. But they'll be better off for the long term because of what they realize is together they are better as a unit, and they are not defined by one player. They are still going to be a team that puts an emphasis on having a great offensive line. There's still going to be a team that puts an emphasis on having a good run game. There's still a team that is going to feel good about its wide receiver room and feel good about its defense. And I still believe that if they can find a way to get the team together when it comes to the right locker room and they get the right quarterback in the building, they'll be in a great location, a very good location, I think, for the long term. But my question is now, where do you go at quarterback? Here's the beauty of it, Dave. They just got $2.5 million back in NIL funds. There is going to be a quarterback out there that can play at Nico's level. Because we saw how Nico played last year. I'm very high on Nico. I think that Nico still has all the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Well, not in the SEC anymore, but in college football in general. There's a quarterback out there from another school who may not be happy with his current NIL deal. And Tennessee could offer him what they just offered Nico. He could come on in and be in a man-ready-made system to go ahead and flourish immediately. It could happen. And the thing about Tennessee, there's a lot of people that love to crap on the Volunteers, and I get it. And there are people out there who think the Volunteers suck and that their fan base is awful and that people think that we hate the Volunteers because we don't talk about them positively all the time or whatever it is. Tennessee is a great fan base, and Tennessee is a great location where people want to root for a certain quarterback. So if you're willing to give it all for Tennessee, Volunteer fans will give it all to you too. So if the right quarterback is out there, there is an opportunity for this to be a really good match to where eventually we are talking about the Volunteers right back in the running for 9 wins, right back in the running for 10 wins, right back in the running to be in the college football playoff. I'm not saying it's going to happen right now. What I am saying is that if Nico can go ahead and talk to people behind closed doors and have people say, oh, he's going to be potentially transferring because of X amount of dollars being offered at another school, Danny White and Josh Heupel can do the exact same thing to bring in their quarterback to guarantee that the expectations that they had going into 2025, they're still going to get met.
Yeah, I think in 25, this definitely hurts them. I think that's a little biased if you don't think. I say you're biased if you don't think it affects them. But I think it's a little naive to think a dude that's played a whole season in the SEC. And let's be honest, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad either, right? Again, I was with you. I thought he would maybe take that next step this year. But no, this is definitely a loss for the you're going into – you just finished spring and you don't have a quarterback that you really trust right now. I mean, Jake Mertlinger, again, one practice, one scrimmage in the orange and white game didn't look great. I don't know if he's ready next year. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like immediately it hurts them. You're right. For the whole sake of the culture of the entire program, yeah, I mean, you definitely made the right move letting him go. But again, once he wasn't answering your phone calls on Friday night, it was over. Like, he helped you make the decision too.
Sure.
So, I mean, no, I think in the near future, yeah, definite loss. I don't know how you could sugarcoat that. But yeah, near future, yeah, you probably help the freshmen in your locker room be like, oh, damn, yeah, he's right. And I thought Josh Heupel handled the PR thing awesome on Saturday. Great answers. I thought guys like Miles Kitzelman the tight end had a phenomenal answer. Those guys are the players they put in front of the media. And Josh Heupel handled it with class. I think they won the Tennessee. Not that they needed to win them over, but I think that was as good as you could handle it. Didn't go out there and bash him. Just kind of like, hey, no one's bigger than the program, myself included. So glad to see Josh Heupel go out there and say that. Couldn't have handled it any better.
Final thing I want to just hit on is that this is the moment where you're going to figure out who are your leaders at Tennessee. And I think that is a major, major win. And we know who some of them are. Miles Kitzelman being one, Arian Carter being another. But you're going to see, I think, the other guys that you really want to step on up. Like a Mike Matthews, who at one point was thinking about entering the transfer portal. Is he a guy that you can believe is going to be a volunteer through thick and thin? He is here for the program and for the culture of this team. He believes in the future of what is Tennessee football. Other guys like Boo Carr, other guys that you have at linebacker and defensive line, and what you got on the offensive line, how you feel about Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis. I think everybody there is going to be better off because if you're going to figure out, hey, united we stand, divided we fall. We will not be divided by one person saying that I am better than everyone else. Therefore, I'm holding out a day. I'm going to believe that this is a team that can still win. And maybe they will and maybe they won't. I like now, I hated the 9.5 spread at FanDuel. I really did. I like the 8.5 a lot more. I feel a lot more confident in that than what I feel right now. But still, I am not ready to give up on this Tennessee team for 2025. I think if they are going to bring in a quarterback, I don't know who it is right now. He may be in the portal. He may not be in the portal. What I will say is you're going to figure out who are your leaders in volunteer country pretty quickly.
Yeah. No, I mean, interesting. It's a situation you don't want to be in, but yeah, win overall for the Pro. I think Heupel got some brownie points, but I'll also bring this up. I heard someone else bring this up. Heupel and them signed him to the deal, so they got to take a little bit of the responsibility on the miss of the personal evaluation too. I mean, again, you signed him for an $8 million or 4-year, $8 million deal. So again, I thought someone else brought that point up. I was listening to today. Greg McElroy brought it up. He made a good point. I was like, that is a good way. It's like, yeah, Heupel handled it awesome, but Heupel also signed the kid.
He did. At the same time, though, how much NIL has changed from the moment that Nico signed to what it is now?
Dude, the rule got started. I mean, Tennessee went to bat for him with NCAA.
I say that's the thing is that
it's kind of it's very it's like the irony of that.
It's a shame, but I mean, at the same time, if you thought at the moment that this is where NIL was going to go, I think you'd be foolish. Nobody knew what this sport was going to be when NIL was first getting started in the Nico.
Oh, I think a lot of people saw this, Bear. I will agree to disagree on that. I think a lot of people were like, dude, this is going to be a shit show. Like, I think most people saw this because, like, again, we've talked about it at the beginning of the show. There's no market, there's no cap, so it's like it's all word of mouth. So I think people knew it was going to be a shit show. I think that's where Nico and his dad came back in. They were like, hold up, now we're seeing some people get these kind of deals, and we got $2 million a year. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, that's what you signed for. You got to hold up the end of your. You know what? I'd be interested, and I know Auburn does this. I don't know if Tennessee and Sphere does, but if Tennessee made him pay a buyout to leave, that would be interesting to see if they made him pay. I think that would have got out. I don't know.
It could have. I think it could have. Anyways, like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels. That way you keep up to date with everything that we're doing here on the channel, on the race towards the end of spring practice and going into the summer months. Speaking of spring, the spring transfer portal window is not open just yet, but it is for one player. Because you got to remember, when Troy Taylor was fired, automatically you had that 30-day grace period. So Stanford players got to go into the transfer portal. They didn't have to wait until April 16th. They're in right now. And one has already committed. Emmet Mosley, the Stanford wide receiver, is officially headed to the 40 acres. He is now going to be the wide receiver number 2, opposite of what you have in Ryan Wingo, alongside with DeAndre Moore, and another consistent force for an Arch Manning in what feels like a substantial year for Texas. This, to me, Dave, is a really, really interesting find because of Emmet Mosley was one of those guys. If you look at his numbers last season on a very overall, I would say probably lackluster Stanford team underneath Troy Taylor, he stood out. One of the better receiving threats. One of the more complete overall wide receivers that people had a lot of high hopes for. And I think that right now, the way that he fits in with the system is going to be pretty substantial. I think that's something that is really going to help him take that necessary step forward. He's 6'2". Last season had 48 catches for 525 yards, 6 touchdowns, had 8 starts as a true freshman. And now he gets to join forces with Arch Manning. But he also doesn't have to be that number 1 receiver. He gets to just be a part of a system, and a system that I think is going to be very wide receiver friendly because of what we know about several guys that have entered the transfer portal and come on into Texas. Guys like Matthew Golden, guys like Isaiah Bond, guys like A.D. Mitchell, all of which were better off leaving the 40 acres than when they were at their previous location.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I'm watching it right now. I hadn't watched this kid's full stuff. I have his 10-minute highlight up right now. No, I mean, he would be a good add here. They lose so many guys. Yeah, you got to add a third. You're right. If this guy's your second or third threat, yeah, I'd for sure take that. Again, I'm not expecting this guy. It looks like he struggles to separate a little bit, but I think he's more of like, hey, he's your now screen, get him on the perimeter. Will be interesting to see how he plays against some other secondaries in this league. But I don't see a lot of separation, but I do think he can win at the first and second level. And you do need, because like I always mentioned, you got to build your wide receiver group, your wide receiver room like a basketball roster. Not everybody needs to be the same. I think that's where Arkansas is struggling right now. They all have just very undersized speedster type of guys. You need that X that can go win one-on-one outside. This guy could win some one-on-one battles, Bear, but I really like him at the first and second level.
I think that he is a guy that you're going to see win a lot after the catch and be a good security blanket as a secondary option. Ryan Wingo is going to be the guy that I think takes that next step forward. That's the hope, at least. You brought him on in as a 5-star. You had the belief that he was going to be your next big-time playmaker. You have DeAndre Moore. And I think that DeAndre Moore, in the limited role that he had last year, had his highs, had his lows, but it's another year in the system. He already has a good rapport with what we know with Arch. You know he's going to be a weapon. You are losing, though, some tight end play. You are losing, though, a guy like Matthew Golden that you can trust. You are losing, whether Silas Bowling.
You're losing a lot of production.
You're losing a lot. You're losing a lot. So this is a guy in Emmet Mosley who on a team last year, whether or not you thought that Alec Alamayor was a really good wide receiver, because he was, for a very underperforming Stanford team, he still found a way to show on out. I think that's something to where you can say 3 years of eligibility, more importantly, 2 years to work with Arch Manning, as long as Arch comes back for 2025. This is the long-term play for a guy that you have hope can be an immediate contributor from the second that he touches down on campus.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I'm not worried. I think Texas will be fine at receiver this year. It's probably not going to be as explosive as it was last year, but I think in this system with Sarkisian, he sets them up for success just with the play calling. So again, I'm not really ever worried. This will never be a weakness.
No.
That's wild to say because, like you mentioned, Bear, they lost a lot of production. And like you said, you add in Gunnar Helm into that production as well. Add so even more. So, but I'm not real worried about this spot. I'm more worried about the offensive line than I am the receivers.
I am too, but I do think that when you have wide receivers that can find ways to get open and win at the point of attack to create the offense to where you're able to kind of have a more diverse play package, that's a win in itself. We have not done this in a while, Dave. So let's go ahead and grade the move, as we always like to do. Elite, all league, winnable plus, winnable minus, Jag. It's very fun. I'm excited because we haven't done this one in a minute. Where does Mosley fall for you in this category?
Explaining for you newbies out there, all 500 of you listening right now, this is a grading scale I used to use when I was in college football. You try to kind of marry your high school and your college side of evaluation so you're speaking the same language in the building. This is kind of, you see LSU examples here, but LSU uses this now. But Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, Georgia and Oregon really kind of started this because the Alabama and Bill Belichick one, way too long, way too many numbers. Got to simplify it. So Bear, elite speaks for itself, guys. You see those kind of examples up top there. It's a day one starter, no brainer. When you think of the draft's coming up in Green Bay, guys that'll be in that green room, you look at a lot of those guys, especially the Thursday night guys. So Patrick Peterson, the dudes, Derek Stingley started as a freshman, all league. You're not that far from the elite range, but you're kind of that next step. Again, you see some of these names: Terrace Marshall, Kavion, Chazon, certain guys like that. Really productive guys that probably start for you about 3 years, 2 years if they leave after 3. They're really good players for you. If you have a lot of these guys, you're winning a conference championship, if not a national. You're not operating a lot in the elite all league. Winnable plus, winnable minus is where most of your teams will be operating, folks. Again, that's why a little bit of separation. Winnable plus, you're winning because of this guy. You're winning because of this guy. You see, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a phenomenal year in 2019 there. Winnable minus, we can agree that this is their scale. They put John Battle there. We'll agree to disagree. This is a guy, I always like to use the offensive line as an example. Like Bama used to use, and he was way better than this by the time he graduated, but DJ Fluker. But just an example here. You got a guy that's sitting at guard, but isn't the brightest guy in the world, and you got to have that center or tackle there to go kind of tell him what to do. But he'll help you win the championship. You're not going to be winning because of him. And then Jags speak for themselves. These SEC schools aren't recruiting Jags, more walk-on caliber guys. Here, Bear, I'll go the 5 minutes. I watched this kid when we were on. I'd heard his name before, but I hadn't gone back and watched him from 2024.
Yeah, just go with the 5 minutes.
I think he's going to be kind of a role guy for him. I don't think they're going to win because of Emmet Mosley, but I think he's going to help them win and help this wide receiver room not drop down as much as a lot of teams would after the production. And Barry, you keep making a good point. Adding Gunnar Helm in there. I know he's not a wide receiver, but he was a receiving threat for them. I think it's a winnable minus, Bear. I think it's a winnable minus. I think Texas is really going to have to, guy like you said, Ryan Wingo, DJ Moore, step up, Khalil Lockett. Those guys kind of step up. JB French coming over as a freshman. Those guys step up that have the higher ceilings. I do think this guy has a significant role, though. If this guy's your 3, I think Texas's wide receiver room is better than we're expecting.
You know how I know that we're close to being back? Because if you continue to go with the glass somewhat half empty and I go glass half full, because I think he's a winnable plus. I do. Listen, you got to add as many weapons as possible for Arch Manning to feel comfortable in this system, especially when you don't have the same 4 offensive linemen that you had last year. You're replacing your starting left tackle, your starting right tackle, your starting center, one of your starting guards, your tight end, 3 wide receivers, a good running back that was a great pass catcher out of the backfield. And this is for a quarterback that people believe is supposed to be a generational talent. So if we're going to go to that level, get him as many weapons as humanly possible so that way he feels good. I love what I have seen from Mosley. I loved what I saw from him in a small sample size last year. He led all ACC freshmen in receptions. He ranked number 3 among all ACC freshmen in receiving yards. He had 6 touchdowns. And he made a role for himself on a team that wasn't getting a lot of hype, but yet still was putting itself in position to where they could win some games or at least be competitive at times. And so now you're bringing him in. The thing that I love about this, it's a long-term play for a short-term opportunity. You don't have to have a guy like Mosley come on out and be a day one difference maker the way that you were kind of hoping that like a Silas Bolden could because he was a grad transfer. You have 3 years of eligibility with him and probably at least 2 years to where he is going to be a starter on your team or at least compete for a starting spot. If he ends up being the best wide receiver to come to Austin this year, that's a huge win. If he ends up being a quality role player, that's also a huge win. Whatever it takes to guarantee that Texas is still in the driver's seat in the SEC, still feels good about its offensive personnel, regardless of who is the play caller or who is the quarterback, and regardless of if you feel like that they can still be a competitive force to hoist up a national title, it's always, in my opinion, a winnable plus. Mosley provides that for this offense. He provides that for Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian. I think that they're in a very, very, very good spot now to where Texas feels like that they have multiple different receivers. And as you brought up, different types of receivers who all can win in different advantages to help them go ahead and punch their ticket back to the college football playoff.
Yeah, basketball roster, folks, 1 through 5.
Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels. Before we go ahead and get into spring game takeaways, I want to get some people paid. And the wait is over because baseball season is finally here. And now you can start the season off strong by going on over to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, FanDuel is celebrating the return of baseball by giving new customers $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Simply lay down $5, win that bet, get $250 in bonus bets back in for you to play moving forward. FanDuel has so many ways to get into the action. They also have so many ways from hits, steals, home runs. They got the lineup filled with all your favorite bets. Or if pitching is more your thing, FanDuel has a deep bullpen from best bets to strikeout innings and so much more. So when you place your first bet, it can be almost anything. And if it hits, you'll get $250 in bonus bets. I can tell you right now, some of my favorite lines every single night is whenever Tarek Schoolbull's on the line, I'm always going to take the over in his pitch, in his strikeout rate. And the same thing goes for Paul Skeens, former Bayou Bengal himself. Whatever bet you want to go place, make sure you go visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join in on the action today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make every moment count with FanDuel, the official sponsor of Major League Baseball. All right, Dave, let's dive on in to spring game action. Multiple spring games this past weekend. We had A-Day. We had the Florida game. We had Tennessee still. We had Auburn's A-Day, which they also call, they also call A-Day.
Yeah, it's A-Day.
A lot of notes. G-Day went on. Which one do you want to start with?
On my list, I went alphabetical. I got Alabama, but we can start with whoever you want, dude.
Let's start with Bama. Big takeaways. Let's start number 1. clear as day, we know who right now is going to be the starting quarterback. Whether or not you believe that Keelan Russell is still a good player or that Austin Mack has more left in the tank and that you don't want to sell your stock yet, it's clear, because Ryan Grubb said so, Ty Simpson is your starting quarterback going into 2025.
Yeah, I think most of us. I think that'd be the odds-on favorite by most people. But I'm going to go the offensive line. Really interested in this group. Second year with Coach Clav. This has been a unit for the past probably since 2020. The last national championship team has kind of been a unit with a lot of question marks. It's had hype 2 years ago going into the season as being one of the best and didn't live up to that. Interesting year. It did look like the few clips you did get, and from talking to some people, Wilkin Formby, again, had a horrible game against South Florida Alabama fans, if you could remember. They had to bring our guy Pritchett off the bench, but it's improved significantly. And I think he's locked down that right tackle spot. You got Jaden Roberts back, Cam Dewberry transferred, then Caden Proctor and Parker Brelsford back at center. Really interested to see how our guy Olis Alon kind of transferred there. The German, it's kind of played at left guard. He's kind of your backup there. You got Gino Vandermark. Probably any injury they have on the interior or at center, he's coming in. He's played a lot. He's started some games. They got, I think, a little more depth than they have. They may not have that high-end talent. Still want to see it with Caden Proctor more consistently, but I think they got to be fired up about it. If you're a Bama fan, it's wild to say if you haven't watched him since the South Florida game where he really struggled. But Wilkin Formby has apparently kind of turned a corner this spring. That would be big if he can anchor down that right tackle spot opposite of our guy Caden Proctor at left tackle spot. So I kind of picked that up.
I'm going to go with this secondary. I think of this secondary, the thing about it right now, maybe you don't feel like that there is a Malachi Moore in terms of leadership, but they're deep. This is a very deep secondary and a very deep pass unit that can allow yourself to feel confident that if somebody is not meeting the expectations, you don't have to send them out there for another go-around. What was one of the big things that really hurt Alabama at times last year? It was inconsistent secondary play. Look at the Georgia game in the second half. Look at the Vanderbilt game. Look at the Tennessee game. Look at what happened with the open field tackling whenever Jackson Arnold ran off and ran in the Oklahoma matchup. I feel really good about where this secondary stands. Doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of players that are going to become All-Americans or All-SEC players, but I feel like that you see the names. You get a full year with Zabian Brown. You have a full offseason with Zabian Brown. You have Damani Jackson. You have Keon Sapp. You have Bray Hubbard. But you also have Xavier Mincy, Drake Patrick Jr. You also have Dijon Lee. You have Chuck McDonald. You have Red Morgan. You have a lot of guys to where you can interchange and play certain matchups if you want, but also the way that you're pushing yourself in practice, you feel like, okay, if we're winning against these wide receivers, that means one of two things. Either our secondary is so good that when we play against Auburn, when we play against South Carolina, when we play against Georgia, when we play against some of these better wide receiver teams, we're going to be able to shut them down because if we're shutting down our guys who we believe in, or we have some issues at the wide receiver position. I came away very impressed with how many times it felt like both Keelan Russell and Austin Mack, yes, they made some good throws at times. And so, same thing with Ty Simpson. But how many times you would look back and say, there's another secondary player making a play on football. There's a guy that's winning his one-on-one battle against a wide receiver. That, to me, is a huge step in the right direction, I think, for Kalen DeBoer in year two. Because as long as you can have a good secondary, I think the pass rush can come on up. I think the passing game can step on up. But your ability to create turnovers and give your offense as many chances as possible to score, that could be a major difference for Alabama this upcoming.
See, I actually thought from talking to people over there, the wide receivers had the better day. So that's what I'm kind of saying is if the wide receivers are doing that against that secondary, because Alabama's going to be ranked as the top 5 secondary going into the season next year. So that'll be interesting to see. And again, we all got to remember, it's one practice, it's one game. They've had 14 others, so it's all just one lumped in. I know people, because that's the only one a lot of people only see. But no, other than that, pass rush again concerns me. Yanze Pierre looked like the only guy there. I don't know. That one, Freddie Roach's group kind of concerns me a little bit, and Christian Robinson's group a little bit, just a little bit. You got to create as we all know, if you can create pressure without having to bring an extra person, it's massive.
I'm glad that you brought up wide receivers. What I really could appreciate is they feel good, I think, about their wide receiver room without Ryan Williams, because Ryan Williams wasn't out there.
No.
And then you throw in Ryan Williams, and now it's like, we could be dangerous this year. We could be very dangerous. And more importantly, we could feel like that the way that our offense looked at Washington, when we had guys like Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, we may have that trifecta once again. And this may just be the start. That's something that I think if you're an Alabama fan, I agree with you. You can take away our secondary is really good. They're winning their one-on-ones, but they're also getting cooked by some of these wide receivers. How good is our wide receiver room compared to what it was last year?
How good compared to last? Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's deeper because you also have
a lot deeper.
Yeah. I mean, you also have the freshmen that stepped up a lot. Sierra Brooks has played well. Again, you always have these spring standouts, and there's always, I feel like it's every team. It's not just one team. There's always a spring standout, and it just doesn't translate into the fall. I hope that's not the case for him, but no, yeah. I mean, you got Cole Adams, who's a role guy back for you. Yeah, they're deeper this year. Me and you both agree. I think Jeremy Bernard was their most consistent from all 13 games last year from start to finish. So like you said, he continues to take that next step, another year in that system with them. And then Ryan Williams does his thing, and then everybody's hearing him. And Isaiah Horton's lived up to the bill through spring so far for Bama too.
Let's move over to Auburn, the other A-Day that was going on. You know what I really take away? If there is a player that wants to enter the transfer portal, they're going to be one of the most sought after receivers, whether that be Perry Thompson or Malcolm Simmons. Now, I don't think either is going to go, but Cam Coleman is probably your number one. Eric Singleton didn't play. He wasn't involved. Neither was Jackson Arnold. But Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons had a very good day. They were winning a lot of their one-on-one battles, and it just feels like this is where Auburn finally should be able to kind of take that next step forward because of whether it's with Deuce Knight, whether it's with Ashton Daniels, whether it's with Jackson Arnold, the weapons that they have there right now. There's an opportunity for this to be the deepest wide receiver room in the SEC. Absolutely, it may not be the best, but the deepest in terms of what talent you have. I mean, Perry Thompson may play less than 30% of snaps this year. Like if he stays there because of just the roles that everyone else has. But still, you put him on like 6 other SEC teams, he's immediately wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2.
No, I know. I agree with you. I mean, they're by far the deepest of any team in the country heading into the season, by far, on the wide receiver spot, which is wild to say because it's not normally Auburn. But I mean, the Horatio Fields kid I've heard from over there, he's been balling. Sam Turner, a true freshman. Yeah, I mean, they go about 6 deep, and then we always forget, everyone, myself included, Malcolm Simmons, we don't talk enough about, who's kind of sitting there as like a 3rd, 4th guy. And you're like, dude, if their 3rd guys, Horatio Fields or Malcolm Simmons, like, whoo, it's going to be a pretty good unit. So you're fired about them. I'm going to go the defensive line, man. I think they got a lot more depth and length. I should say more so length, good-looking bodies. Like, where you're like, yeah, that's an SEC interior body right there. Right?
Sure.
Jamison Travis, Dallas Walker, Antonio Coleman, Malik Black, all those dudes look a lot better. This is going to be the best Auburn, from a personnel standpoint on defense, this is the best personnel they've had since the 2019 defense. And that had, I mean, again, it's not going to be as good as that just since then. I mean, that was Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, and the boys. Like that, they held Joe Burrow and them in check as good as anybody. They're not going to be that good, but I think this is from a personnel talent standpoint, especially when you factor in how good the 2 corners are going to be. This could be as good of a defense that they've had since 19. It won't be as good, but I think at least personnel-wise it will. And I like what DJ Durkin does defensively. So I don't know why he couldn't. He has the right ingredients. He could put out another good defensive product. And I thought they were pretty good last year. Offense just didn't help them a lot.
I'm glad you brought up because you mentioned the corners, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kay and Lee had a really good day. Kay and Lee had a really good day. If you can have a boundary cornerback that can take away a number 1 wide receiver, you have a shot in every game, in my opinion. Because you look at the NFL model, as much as I don't like comparing the NFL and college football, because that's just such a disgusting way to kind of look at the sport, it is. When you take away the best asset of your team and they do that you trust more than anybody else to go up and get an easy 6 points for you, and Kay and Lee is winning his battles against Cam in coverage, and you're watching some of the plays that they're floating around all throughout the social media sphere, and you're like, oh, look at that. He's locked on it. Man, like, dude is not letting up. That, to me, shows that Auburn defensively is still going to be a very good team. They're going to take another step forward. Kendrick Falk, you have coming off the defensive line. You already mentioned Dallas Walker. I like what they have in the secondary. I think Jay Crawford's going to have another step forward at the other cornerback position. Anquan Fagans, I think, can have a really good year. Caleb Harris can have a really good year. They got some young dudes in there. It's all going to come down to the offense. And let's be real, Dave, it's not even going to come down to the offense. It's going to come down to one player on the offense, and it's quarterback. And here's the big question. Is it going to be Jackson Arnold week 1? Probably, but you didn't see him play. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. They said it wasn't that big of a concern. It was the Deuce Knight showing. Deuce Knight's
Freeze came out and said they're already putting in a package for him week 1 just so he can be I mean, you've been repping it since spring. I would hope you get down that by that Friday night. But
still, it's like if he ends up hitting, he may end up pushing Jackson Arnold out of the starting job completely. And I think that's foolish to say that right now. But what I will say is they're 100% right to have a package.
I feel like if that happens, it's bad for Auburn.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong in thinking that. If Deuce Knight is starting by midseason, unless Jackson Arnold goes down with an injury or something.
Which could happen easily.
But if he starts over him, yeah, gosh, Jackson Arnold's about to embarrassing right now. Over under our buddies over at FanDuel, giving them another plug. 7.5 wins for Auburn. Are you going over after the spring?
No, I'm staying under. I think right now. I think I have to.
You're going 7.
I think 7-5 is what they're going to be right now. 8-5. Okay, 8-5 if you include a bowl game and they get a bowl victory. Yeah, but right now I'm still on the fence.
I'll go 1 win above. See, I think 8-4. You're right. I mean, I think I'm just right above it.
We're literally talking about what is the quarterback play. I think with bad quarterback play, this is a 7-5 team. I think with good quarterback play.
What if I just told you Jackson Arnold was good?
I'd go 8-4. I would take the over at that point. If you tell me I get good Jackson Arnold and I get more of what we saw with like a better passing, but like if you give me a combination of what he did on the ground against Alabama and then what he did in the second half against Ole Miss through the air, that's an 8-win team. That's an 8-win offense.
Should be at this point. Should be. Right. Yeah.
It should be. That's the big takeaway.
Like we're sitting here talking like, man, are we really going to go give again? Me and you have our feelings about Hugh Freeze, but like, am I really going to go be like, attaboy, Hugh, 8-4, year 3? It's like, I mean, yeah, dude, that should be expectation. I mean, year 3?
Here's what I'll say. I will back off a Hugh for an entire year and not say that he is one of these guys that needs to be on the hot seat if he goes 8-4. Like, I'll end all hot seat conversations if he goes 8-4.
Right. Sure. Yeah. He goes 8-4. He's no. I don't even think he's getting fired at 7-5.
Probably not.
6 he will. 6-6 or worse.
Well, worse he's fired. 6-6. There's that conversation going on. Let's continue conversations by going over to Gainesville. DJ Lagway did go out there. He did. Like, it was very little, but he went out there. That's not who I want to talk about. You know who I want to talk about. You know exactly where I'm going.
Bailey, baby.
Yep. Because if he was throwing balls to one Mr. Dallas Wilson. Dallas Wilson's going to be a problem.
Balled out.
Dallas Wilson's going to be a problem.
Hold on, Dallas. The Vol fans may want to bring Harrison Bailey back, baby.
They might. I mean, can he though? Because it'll be yeah, exactly. I'll think so. Dallas Wilson looked. You want to know who Dallas Wilson looks like? Dallas Wilson looks like how Cam Coleman looked in spring and in fall camp last year.
Oh yeah.
That's how I thought about him. Just
his spring game, I think too.
So the spring game, I remember that Cam was kind of taking over, and it was very clear he was the best talent on the roster. But by fall camp, even when they brought in Keandre Lambert-Smith at that point, everyone knew, you know what? From a talent perspective, Cam's still number 1. That's how I feel. Like, yes, you have Eugene Wilson. Yes, you have Aiden Mizell. Yes, you have J. Michael Sturdivant. And I think all those guys can be really good players. But the routes he was running, the one-on-one matchups he was winning, the cuts, the clear capability to win at the point of attack and come down with the ball and make it look easy. Like, this is the dude that's been doing it for 3 years. Get Billy Napier. Bravo to you for not quitting and making sure that you pulled him away from Eugene, Oregon. Bravo for you bringing him down there, because if that is somebody who could have such a major impact with a healthy version of with the healthy version of DJ Lagway, to where I may actually end up saying very dangerous things about Florida football going into 2025. That's how impressed I was with Dallas Wilson.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was awesome. I had him on it's really kind of the freshman show for Florida.
The entire
It's
freshman
kind of what
class.
spring games are like now. I mean, Lagway, took the first snap and then he was out. I mean, we saw it with a bunch of other spring games. A lot of the big time guys you mentioned, Jackson Arnold, them not playing. I mean, a lot of we got the other guy here. Where's my guy? Oh, Vernon Brown.
Vernon Brown had a good day.
Yeah, Vernell Brown had another good day. It's really just a bunch of the freshmen for Florida who really had a good day. So that's really what kind of stood out to me. Didn't get much from the right side of the offensive line. That's what I kind of wanted to see, but not much. Defense didn't look awesome. But, I mean, again, it's one practice, one spring game. Outside of the freshmen, like you said, Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown balling out, this was probably the one spring game I took the least from just because I was like, I mean, they didn't play a ton of dudes in this thing. And it was kind of like a weird format.
I agree. What I will take away is that the same thing that I kind of took away from at the end of the year, this is going to be one of the best running back rooms in the SEC this year. I truly believe that. And it's partially because they have a good offensive line, but Jaden Baugh once again showed that he was very difficult to bring down in open space. Jacoby Jackson is pure speed and lightning in a bottle. I think that Katie Daniels, who didn't play, could be a very good player. I think that Trayon Webb, who, when he's coming off of the injury, he may end up being a really good player. I think Duke Clark can get involved pretty well. I like what I've seen from this running back room, and it has the opportunity to take so much pressure off of DJ from being the dude and being that guy for somebody that's going to be coming off of an injury. Because remember, whether or not we want to say, and we're not going to speculate what's actually going on, there's something that's not entirely right with DJ right now. That much we know. Whatever happens this offseason. But the fact that you can put a good run game behind him and say, go ahead, tote the rock, and start winning your one-on-one battles, and we don't have to throw it 40 times a game to go win this football game, that's where I feel really good about Florida right now, is that they're going to go back to having a good rushing attack.
Yeah, no, you're right. Ball is a leader in that room. Yeah, I could see them being – they should. Again, key will be the offensive line, but I 100% agree with you.
Let's move on over to Georgia. Big takeaway from G-Day. It wasn't on television, so you kind of had to just go based off of what you saw on clips. Let's start off with the wide receiver room. I think just having Colby Young back on the field is going to open up the passing attack. I think it's going to do pretty well for you across the intermediate, and it's going to make teams have to pay closer attention to him. And then that's going to open up plays for guys like Dylan Bell and Oscar Delp inside, Zachariah Branch inside the red zone. It's going to open up plays for Noah Thomas. I think having Colby Young may be one of the biggest key weapons for this offense, regardless of who you have at quarterback, regardless of what this offensive line looks like. Just having him a part of the personnel underneath what you want Mike Bobo, I think is going to really change the way that we view Georgia's passing attack.
Yeah, for Georgia, for me, for the notes here, I mean, I heard drops were – I had a buddy who went to this game, and he was a Georgia guy telling me a bunch of drops. Again, drops were kind of a thing, and then I saw Kirby Smart say, but they were better than last year. So I was like,
sure.
I mean, so you knew that was bad. I think the running back room here will be interesting. Nate Frazier, Roderick Robinson, Chauncey Bowens. What do we kind of get out of this room? It doesn't need to get to Cash Jones is playing unless they get a plethora of injuries again. This running back room kind of needs to take the next step. And Bear, my last one was just, I think it's going to be a linebacker-led room here, like as it should be. Georgia's better defenses have been this. Again, I keep saying it. I think it's Georgia's lowest floor under Kirby. Now, I will say this. I think that Tennessee game, week 3 in Knoxville, got a little easier just a minute ago, or this past weekend. But I do think this will be led by C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, and them. I do like the linebacker group. I have questions on the front 7 and on the back end, but I do like that core group. I think they will lead it. And, hey, if your leadership starts in the middle of the defense, especially a Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann-led defense, it's a good start. It's a good start there because they can get everybody lined up, especially in that front that I think they're going to have to help on, especially on those edges, is that especially early in the season, is they take on a road trip. If they win this, if they want to go win in Knoxville, those inside backers are going to have to play well and will be a main reason why they will. So I'm fired up for them about that. But again, I think they have as many holes as they've ever had, probably since his first year. This is, I think, since the 2016 season. These is the most holes. Again, they can be answered. Just an interesting offseason heading into Georgia here. Again, me and you, Bear, talked on other episodes, brother, about them maybe going to – I think they'll definitely go hit the portal for a quarterback. It'll just depend who they go get.
Well, here's the question. Do they feel good enough about where they are right now with Gunnar Stockton and Pelusi going into next year, or do they have to add in somebody else? A name you didn't mention, Justin Williams at the linebacker spot. And I just bring him up because if he led the team in tackles during the day, like he led the team in tackles on G Day. So he had like 9 tackles. I think he had 2 tackles for losses. The other one that was out there, Chris Cole, I think he had like 6 tackles and 2 pass breakups. Did a pretty decent job when it was in coverage. So you got to feel good about that. The thing I will say right now about Georgia, this is going to be their weakest team, but I'm not doubting Kirby. Like I'm not. I can't. Until you give me reason to say they're not going to put it all together, they're not going to be able to find a way to close this thing out or constantly shoot themselves in the foot. I'm still not. I agree with you. This is going to be a team that you want to put an emphasis on trusting the run game, whether that be with Nate Frazier, whether that be with Chauncey Bowens, whether that be with the other running back that I'm blanking off the top of my head on. I still feel like that you're going to be trusting.
Roderick Robertson.
Yeah, Roderick Robertson. I think that you're going to be fine in that position. I think you're going to have to trust your overall defense, like your defensive line and really your front seven. Because I think that you are going to see KJ Bolden take another step forward. I do. And I think that Daniel Harris could be a really good overall. Could have a much better year than what he had last season. I think that he could easily take that step forward the way that we thought he was going to last year, especially now with Julian Humphrey gone with other pieces missing. So like you pair him and KJ Bolden on the back end of the secondary. I'm not saying it's going to be a top 5 unit. But what I am saying is that he may end up being your top cornerback to pair alongside with your top defensive back overall.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man.
Tennessee, naturally, we know it was the main one. It was all about the Nico. It was Nico. I'll take away this. Even if Mike Matthews is not ending up wide receiver number 1, I think that their wide receiver room is going to be better than what it was last year. Now, does that mean that it's going to be more experienced? No, not at all. In fact, far from it. But like Travis Smith had a good day. Like Travis Smith is somebody who had a very good spring. He had a very good camp. He has been on campus and he has been working to build that rapport in the offensive personnel, and they are going to have a role for him. Now, what is that role per se? I'm not sure. It may be third down, slot receiver, quick slant routes, just get him the football, let him pick up the first, he goes back to the sideline. But I think at this point, you realized how quickly he has adapted to the college game. That's going to benefit a team like Tennessee in the passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, Bear, I agree with you. Receiver Radarius Jackson, I think he could be key to a true freshman. But you already mentioned some of the receivers. I'm gonna take the low hanging fruit and just again on defense. Again, they had a lot of guys out. I mean, Arian Carter didn't participate. Jermon McCoy was out. I think Ricky Gibson was sick. So I mean, I think again, I saw people were wondering if he was hitting the port, but I saw somebody post one of Tennessee's guys say no, he was just sick from what we heard. But Jake Mertlinger, if that's the guy going into the season for Tennessee, I think it significantly lowers the ceiling of this team.
Sure.
I'm not ready to say floor yet, but I'm going to say ceiling absolutely. Like, that would really hurt you. Again, I know it's one practice. I did not see any. Again, I didn't even see the full orange and white game, if I'm being honest with you. No one did, unless you were there. But Mertlinger can't be the answer. I mean, I think we all know that. I think Josh Heupel knows that. George McIntyre could be a really good player down the line. I don't think he's ready. Tennessee definitely has to go get a quarterback in the portal, even if it's a guy that is just going to come compete for the job, because you have to have some kind of healthy competition there. Just watching Mertlinger again, I wasn't his biggest fan out of high school either. A good kid, I hear, but I just didn't really like his film idea. That's why I was like, gosh, gracious, if he's their starter. I mean, he didn't even get in last year when Nico went down. They put in Gaston Moore against Alabama. He threw a pick his first play. Or Gaston Moore did. They didn't. So Mertlinger didn't even get in over Gaston Moore. And I get it. Moore had been with Heupel since UCF, so he knew the system. But still, the quarterback room, they got to go get somebody.
There is one player, and I know I'm going to butcher his last name, but I was impressed with him because he got 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's just kind of it. It was the tight end, Jack Van Dorselaer, I think is how you say his last name. I know there's some Tennessee people in here. Can somebody go ahead and pronunciate it for me, and I'll go give you a shout out, or maybe go ahead and give you a free follow on Instagram or something. But 3 touchdowns. What do we know about whoever's going to be the next quarterback? They're going to need a security blanket. What's my rule, Dave? Go get your tight end. Go get yourself a tight end that can be that chain mover. You didn't have Miles Kitzman out there. He wasn't able to play. We know he's dealing with an injury. You having somebody that can maybe be helpful in 12 or 13 personnel, even as a small sample size role player, that's pretty good. I think that, I know that you kind of talked about how Georgia was the one that you came away with, like, maybe not the most questions about, but definitely, like, you didn't have as much intel with it with Florida.
It was Florida was kind of the one that, because Florida, it was just a bunch of the freshmen stood out, which is good. Yeah. I think that's kind of how they set it up.
To me, mine is Tennessee because of all the focus for Tennessee. What was simply based off of the thing that had happened earlier in the day.
And to your point, I brought up earlier, they're better defensive players than even participate.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to read you off a list of players who were out in this game just really quickly. Chris Brazel, Rick Gibson, Ryan Scott, Arian Carter, Jade Harmon, Jaden Lofton, Christian Gass, Joshua Heldston, Nathan Robinson, Emmanuel Okoye, Caleb Herring, Devine Dobbs, Jamad McCoy, Jordan Thomas, Amari Jefferson was limited, Cole Harrison was limited, Deshaun Brand was limited. So, you're not going to be able to get, I think, a lot out of this. What I think you can take away is that, again, there are some players that are going to have bigger roles than maybe we initially thought they were. That to me is what I think is the thing that I'm looking forward to for Tennessee. And I was very vocal last year how much I despised this wide receiver room for Tennessee because they weren't properly utilizing Mike Matthews for my money. Maybe it is, maybe it is Mike Matthews. And I was just way too high on him coming out. And maybe I was wrong, but I feel a lot better about where this wide receiver room is going into summer workouts than I felt going into 2024. If that's fair.
No, yeah, I think it's fair.
All right. Before we get on out of here, as we always like to close out, the hypothetical. What is the hypothetical? It's just something that we throw together that is where we can utilize our imagination. Because if it's fun, that's college football, and we're doing that. But this really isn't a hypothetical. What this is we kind of have to play matchmaker at this point. Because the hypothetical is Tennessee needs a quarterback. They do. Regardless of if you think that Jake Merklinger, whether you think George McIntyre, whether it could be the next 5-star can come on in and lead Tennessee to a national championship, they need a quarterback for 2025. So Dave and I are going to pick the 3 quarterbacks that we would love to see suit up for Tennessee next fall when week 1 rolls around and Syracuse comes to town. There is one caveat. They can't be from the SEC. We got to pick dudes that have either been proven anywhere else or are going to have potential to be up to that same level.
That can realistically come, yeah.
Yeah. So, Dave, I'll give you the floor first.
Am I going 3, all 3 right now, Bear?
Go 3, 2, and try to get the guy that you would love to see as much as possible at number 1.
That I would love, just in general, or who I think is real, who it realistically could be.
Either or. Because again, I have a realistic. I have a realistic guy.
I'm gonna go random here. Because again, I talked to a guy, G5 GM today. It's gotten mentioned some today that thought Tennessee would go with a heavy hitter. So I'm gonna go with some system familiarity with a guy like Josh. Totally forgetting what's my guy's name? Oh my God, I'm totally forgetting. Oh, sorry. Sawyer Robertson. That's who I'm going to go roll with from Baylor. He fits the kind of the Jeff Lebby. He's been with Jeff Lebby before. Jeff Lebby comes from he was with Josh Heupel at UCF. I'm going to go Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. That would not shock me at all if they went and kind of at least sniffed around there. Do I think he ends up at Tennessee? I would, if you made me bet yes or no, I would lean no. But it wouldn't shock me if this is kind of the route they kind of go see just because it's a familiarity of a system and he does have some production there at Baylor.
I think for me, number 3 on my list. And the reason I throw him at number 3 is because he was really fun to watch at the FCS level. So I'm going deep down. I think Western Kentucky's Maverick McIver would be a really interesting find for this spread offense that loves to go ahead and uncork it. When you look at his numbers last season at ACU, over 3,800 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He also has, for his career, about 17, an average of 2.7 rushing yards a play. For his career as a passer, he has over 100 touchdowns. And he has, 18 interceptions. In a style of offense that is going to be asking you to throw the football, I think he could be a really interesting fit as that day 3, very cost-friendly. It doesn't pigeonhole you to saying, hey, if Merklinger pushes him or if McIntyre pushes him, we have to start him for the entire year. But there's something about working in Tyson Helton's offense that I think could stand out working in this offense too.
Yeah, I don't dislike that one. Next, I'm going to go Sam Levitt. Just because I've heard his name tossed around for a lot of teams. The Arizona State quarterback led them to a Big 12 title game. I don't know if he'll leave. I've heard Georgia's interested in this. His name has came up in every conversation I've had with people that work within college football in the SEC, that, hey, if teams go sniff around for a quarterback in the spring that is currently a starter in another program, remember, it has to be outside the SEC. Can't have SEC inter-league transferring after the winter portal, so it can't happen in the spring. I'm going to go Sam Levitt here. Just got to think this would be a good get for Tennessee. This would totally raise the ceiling back to where I think Tennessee could be if they were to get this year. So really my number one pick, I'm not going to say it yet, let you go back. My number one pick will be who I think it can realistically kind of be. But number two, I'll go Sam Levitt. I think Sam Levitt's much more real than Sawyer Robertson. I actually think Sawyer Robertson would be a good pickup. I just was kind of going back to the Levy connection, same system, then going back there. But I'll go Levitt from Arizona State at number two.
I'll go number two, who I think is the name that people are probably going to go put at number one, but I think it's Avery Johnson from Kansas State. I think that Johnson's mobility, I think that some characteristics about what he provides when it comes to the passing attack, his capabilities of maneuvering outside the pocket and trusting his legs to go pick up some extra yards. That's somebody who I have a lot of hope for that could transition to this offense and be a really good kind of chain mover. Whether or not that he ends up being this guy that throws for 4,000 yards and leads Tennessee to a national championship, that's neither here nor there. But there's a lot that I like about his game that I think could at least make Tennessee a much more dynamic and have that secondary element with the ground game possible. So I'm going to have him at number two.
See, I saw something today. Somebody reported he makes $2 million currently, and he's from the state of Kansas.
That's the thing too, is that like
I remember we recruited him when I was at Kansas a little bit, and it was like, even for us at Kansas, like, dude, he ain't coming here. The guy's a big K-State fan. I think his high school coach played.
He was very K-State, pro K-State.
Yeah, and he already makes $2 million. I'd be a little – Tennessee would definitely take that kid for sure. Yeah. But, yeah, it'd be my final one. This is the one I think it could be the kind of the come compete for a job type of guy, Bear. It's because Josh Heupel signed him earlier in his career. Signed him at UCF. When I got to UCF, we inherited him. We started some games. Mikey Keene transferred from UCF. Him and Gus did not get along. He didn't really fit Gus's system. Makes sense. That's why Josh Heupel signed him when we got there. Then he went to go take the job at Tennessee, transferred to Fresno State, is currently now at Michigan, probably will lose the job to Bryce Underwood. They're paying him the most money. They're probably going to start that kid just like they do in the NFL. I think it would not shock me if Mikey Keene came to Knoxville because he's familiar with Josh Heupel's system. It's who he had initially committed and signed with, and there's a legit shot he could play this year.
I'm going to give a shout-out, honorable mention to the one that I think would make a lot of sense for the solid offense, and they could probably afford him. It'd be Haynes King at Georgia Tech. I just don't think he's leaving Atlanta at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that'd be a good one. I mean, I don't know if he really fits the system, but you're right. You could have worse quarterbacks.
Number one is Sawyer Robertson for me at Baylor. I believe that when Sawyer Robertson left Mississippi State, it ended up being the best thing for him for an opportunity to compete for a starting job down in Waco, Texas. They have money. They have a lot of money that they can spend if they want to at the quarterback position. But if I could get Sawyer Robertson with the numbers that he put on last year working in this offense underneath Jake Spavital, who doesn't run the same offense of Josh Heupel, but there are still some characteristics that really stand out, to me, that is the ultimate win. You're getting yourself a quarterback that, in my opinion, right now would be at the same level, if not slightly better than Nico was last year, having the same upside, putting him in a system that he has a great understanding of, with wide receivers to where they would be able to build with him throughout the entire summer, and there wouldn't be that much learning going into that week 3 matchup against Georgia. All that to say that if they landed Sawyer Robertson, I would hammer that 8.5 right now, and I would probably say that Tennessee is right back in the running for a college football playoff spot. I think that from a scheme fit and from a reality fit of swinging big, that is the quarterback you have to go after. And
now,
that would be the one
quarterbacks out of the 6 we said. I mean, it'll depend. I wouldn't say the Western Kentucky kid would get them back to the playoffs, but between Mikey Keene, I'd say 4 out of the 6 would get them. You'd feel pretty good about them. We both had Sawyer Robertson, or I really should say what, with the 3 out of the 6, we had the same guy.
If you throw in Haynes King would take him to the playoff too.
If you're on maybe. But you think? I don't know. He doesn't have the vertical passing threat that Heupel wants.
I still think that mobility would help them out in the red zone.
I don't think it'd be bad. I still think they'd be in that 8-win range. I don't know if they get to the playoffs.
I put them in. Okay, if you tell me right now that they get Haynes King, they're 9-3. If you tell me that does not mean that they're a college football playoff team, but I say 9-3. If you tell me Sawyer Robertson, I think they're 10-2.
Yeah, you get either Sawyer Robertson, Sam Levitt, or Avery Johnson, the one you mentioned. I mean, dude, either of those three guys. And again, I don't think Avery Johnson's leaving. But if you got any of those three guys, I think you'd be feeling really good.
Can I throw one more in that's not going to happen because we already know where he's going, but still, Gio Lopez.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd get him to the playoffs either, but I think it would I think he's better than Mikey Keene would be.
Do you think he's better than Jake Merklinger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say so.
Dude, if Jake Merklinger wins that job, dude, Tennessee's a 8-4 team max.
That's my thing. Is that like we know he's probably going to North Carolina at this point because of Nico's not going to go. Nico's not going to go to Chapel Hill. But I just say to myself, man, I'm not going to lie. It would be a lot of fun to see Gio Lopez for 2 years in Heupel's system. It would be a lot of fun to watch that happen.
He always reminded me of Dylan Gabriel when Dylan Gabriel played in Josh Heupel's system.
Could be worse. Could be a lot worse. All right, that does it for the Overtime Drive. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. We will be back on Thursday. What does that mean? It means it's a mailbag episode. So what you have to do, you have to be following us on social. Follow Dave Shumate at Dave Shumate SEC. Could be at Mr. Cole Thompson. Us at SEC Unfiltered. Look for the mailbag. Make sure that you go ahead and give us your questions or email us or go to the Instagram and do it. But wherever you do, make sure that you guys your questions. That way we can answer them live for you on Thursday night when we're right back here. But make sure also you like the video, hit the ring notification, subscribe to the channel. That way we talk college football every single day. Follow us on all the social accounts. Make sure that you also are downloading the podcast version of the show. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Have a good rest of your Monday. Have a great start to your week. We will see you on Thursday night. Remember, you only live life once, so might as well embrace all the chaos. Peace.